When we are born into a river and begin our journey back to the ocean. This journey is your lifetime in this human form. Our ancestors have been carving and shaping this river for centuries. Every twist and every turn repeated by generations after generations. We do not control the entry or exit point in this world. Our entry point is the rain falling down to the earth. Our exit point is when we pass away and are joined back to the ocean and clouds. Your family river starts in the moment of union between your parents. Your river starts in the womb. As the water breaks, we flow into this world. The river is there before we are born and will be there after we are gone. Over time, the path of the river is determined by tradition and repetition. The river dictates to us the journey that we will take back to the ocean. When the water hits an obstacle, it creates a new path that goes around it. It's not the ideal path, but the necessary one. As generations of water flow through and around those obstacles, the twists and turns become bigger and deeper, making the path longer and more complex. After a while, that obstacle is gone, eroded by the water, yet we pretend to go around it as if it was still there. Now, the reaction to that trauma is permanent, carved into the landscape. And we call that landscape heritage, tradition, culture. We have adopted this crooked path as our own, an illusion of a choice, identifying with the past. It is the way we always do things, they say, making us step in the footsteps of our ancestors, flowing down the same old river, making the same old mistakes. The only way to not take that old, inefficient, crooked path is to start a new one. Bury the old way, cover it with sand, since at this point it is nothing more than a trap designed to catch and redirect the water down its path again. As the rain falls down on the ground and the water starts its journey back to the ocean, the old river is pulling the water in between the landscape and gravity. The water is left with very little free will. It is guided now by the free will of previous generations and their actions. Your goal is to get rid of imaginary obstacles and traumas that are passed by heritage, culture, and our families. It is a generational habit, tradition, a curse, which is keeping new generations from finding and making their own path, their natural flow. All generations have to deal with obstacles and trauma. We have to recognize that and not hold it against them. We should not judge them. They did the best they could with the tools given to them at that time. Your parents were born into the flow of their ancestors. They followed their path with no control over their journey. We have to forgive them, since they did not choose or control their flow. Their parents didn't help them to find a new path, to find their own way, or even have the knowledge that another path is possible. They were acting out of fear of making mistakes. Following tradition and heritage was the safe way to go at the time. We needed to appreciate stability more than ability, encouraging independence more than independence. But we want to be the water, not the riverbanks, not the dead landscape, which is made out of stones. When we identify with the landscape, we turn into stones, and we take away water's freedom of movement. Generation after generation, we become the land. We've become the obstacle itself, limiting movement and free flow. We are now in the way of ourselves and others. We've become judgmental and hurtful. We don't know why or how. We cannot control ourselves at that moment. And we truly believe that we are doing something good. It's time that we will be the flow instead of follow, new instead of old, love instead of hate, acceptance instead of judgment, present instead of past or future, action instead of reaction, outside of our thoughts instead of in our thoughts, awake instead of asleep, conscious instead of unconscious, peaceful instead of anxious, courage instead of fear, independent instead of dependent. That's what happens when we are the flow instead of just follow. What we want is freedom of movement, since our origin is a movement within the body of consciousness. Each one of us is a unique movement, a unique character. Intention leads to movement, and that movement has a form, a shape, and all of those together form your character, your personality, which formed itself into a body, your body. Then we are born into this material world, into movements of emotions that shape us as we grow. The external emotions are different in every place and can be changed. Your internal movement, the one you are born from, cannot be changed. You are born from nature, an internal movement within the body of consciousness, your original character. Then you are born into nurture, an external movement within matter, which shaped your current character. When your original movement matches the movements and emotions you are born into, your life becomes an effortless, smooth flow. Your movement matches with the work you do, and everything in your life feels aligned. You don't need to think about what to do or how. It is just your natural flow. Freedom of movement and natural expression. You are just yourself in any situation, without any thoughts or doubts getting in the way of your movement and actions. Your actions are independent of thought. Any task is done better when you have confidence and no thoughts to distract you. It is the safety and comfort to just be yourself. That is true success. It is being in peace, being in love, with no judgment, no friction, no fear, no doubt, and no hate. The landscape of matter does not see water. It is shaped by water, but has no opinion about it. It has no awareness at all, just past emotions set in stone. Once we set something in stone, it will just be there forever, shaping the movement of generations to come, with no opinion, no judgment, no intention. It is just there, just dead matter. For that reason, we must not make it holy. No holy lands, only holy water. A book is like a rock. Let it sink down in the water. Sink back down to the ground. We will overflow your riverbanks. We will break down the dams. We will break down any false meaning that limits our freedom of movement. The riverbanks are dead. They are a false boundary of life. We are the living water. We are alive. Objects that don't move should not dictate our movement. We should be the architects and pave our own way. It is time to upgrade the old road that restricted our movement. We want to build architecture that allows freedom of movement from its original movement out of pure consciousness all the way to its path as it's moving through matter. Recognize the limitations, separate from them, free yourself from matter. See that the river is not you. Remember the difference between water and matter. The river is made from living water and dead matter. See how the river directs your movement and not you. You are not in control, just like your parents could not control themselves. The river is in control, but until now, you couldn't see it. The river does not know what it does. It has no awareness or any desires. So we should not judge the situation or those that cannot see the river. They think that they are stones, that they are just matter. While they are in the river, they cannot see the full landscape. They cannot see the straight path, the right path. As the river turns left and right, up and down, the motion of the emotion keeps us occupied and distracted, addicted to the emotions, addicted to the turbulence of the river that takes you out of control. Some people enjoy this turbulence and want somebody else to be in control, for somebody else to take responsibility. But it is dangerous to have dead matter be in control of our living spirit. It has no knowledge of our personal movement and takes away our free will. You will be out of control, but you will not feel responsible. Invisible boundaries, fake emotions and desires, false identities. Believing that somebody else is in control, that you are a victim of life, yet you are a victim of the dead. Traditions are the riverbanks. The riverbanks are made of words carved in stone. So many dead books we own, old ideas set in stone. We do not choose the landscape we are born into. We can only choose how we react to it, or better yet, choose not to react to it. Just like water woke up on this planet, we are reborn over and over again, doing the best we can to gain control over the environment and ourselves. until we can actually be free in this cold, infinite space. As long as we are mixed with matter, our flow will always be influenced as the matter redirects and affects our movement. We are born into matter. It is a temporary union for a specific function. We cover ourselves with soil and dust, wearing elements like a suit, like an astronaut in a space suit that limits our movements, yet allows us to function in space, outside of the body of consciousness, outside of the ocean. Can we lose ourselves in matter? Can we lose our way, purpose, understanding as we get immersed in matter instead of water? Our goal is to gain control, not lose it. Water over matter. As long as you believe that water is matter, you will not see your true self. Separate yourself from the matter of the river. See the riverbanks and know that they are not you, not your experience, not your trauma, not your story, not your identity. You have to build a new path and not live in the past, not live in someone else's life that has already passed away. Let them pass away so you can pass through life in your own way. Once in a while, a child is born that is a river bender, a mind controller, not of others, but of its own mind, a pioneer which has its own flow and direction back to the ocean. Today, you are that child. You are a river bender, a pathfinder. You are a force of nature. The goal of our evolution is to gain freedom of movement, both in spirit and matter, in character and body, on earth and in space, into a three-dimensional, open, infinite space, away from rocks and their gravity, which interferes with our inherent movement, our original movement before matter, our movement before the limits of the laws of physics the laws of matter. The laws of matter are fixed and limited. The characters of consciousness are infinite and limitless, and they must remain that way unless we want to become dead matter. As long as we move, we will live. We can live forever and design our future. The ability to control matter will allow us to control our future. We want to be able to move with no interruption from the landscape. Maybe with no landscape at all, free floating in space, three-dimensional freedom of movement, like water moving in water, staying true to the original movement of life all the way through. Would be amazing, joyful, with no distractions, no friction or loss of energy, just pure self-expression with no limitations.